Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Geek First Review. My name is Trash Snail. I was gonna give myself a nickname. It's a weird thing to do when it's just yourself because it's a running game with everybody. So, yeah, I'm just Trash Snail today. We are here to talk about The Witcher today. I'm very excited for this review. Um, if you've not joined this cast before, any of other reviews, whether it's a group reviews, newscasts, whatnot, for reviews, what we do is I just said reviews 5 times. Good job, Travis. We do a non-spoiler section, or myself, it's just me, a non-spoiler section, and then I'm going to go into spoilers. I will give you a warning, of course, when I'm about to do that. Before we do that, just to get some plugs out of the way, obviously Rise of Skywalker, we reviewed that. We did a 3.5 hour plus, something like that. It's a long cast. We break down every single thing of the, quote unquote final Skywalker saga film. So we did that. We just finished The Mandalorian. So if you're interested in The Mandalorian, we reviewed every single episode. But if you're just wondering the finale, we just did that this week. I think later on this week, we're going to drop even this weekend, drop some DLC Marvel Ultimate Alliance review. And then the last cast here is going to be our annual this one's the 2019 blooper extravaganza special, where it's a best of the year, some of our favorite moments, some of the things we call back to, or bloopers, or some stuff that we record before cast that doesn't always make it, or sometimes, if you haven't known, at the end of the cast there's like an end credit scene sometimes with some episodes. It's there, so it's a lot of fun episodes. It's going to be a really fun episode. I'm putting the finishing touches on it now. In the first few weeks of January, it's going to be a lot of look backs and look forwards. There's going to be a lot of best of the decades. We're doing a Golden Geeks for the entire decade. We're doing a best video games, and we're going to make a collective list as geeks. We're going to do what else is there? There's a 2020 movie preview and a 2020 video game preview where we go over everything big happening. And then the 2019 Golden Geeks are going to be happening the week of when the Oscars do the noms. It is kind of weird this year because we might talk about some 2019 films in the best of the decade, but it's just the way it rolls out. We can't leave 2019 behind. We still got to do it. And those are lots of fun casts. If you've not tried them out, if you don't know what a Golden Geeks, that's like our award show. That's like our Oscars. We pick 5. The decade we're doing 10, but it's like, what are the 10 best pictures of this decade geek related? And we got some discussion about this year. What is geek related? We do best actor and best actress. Kind of give some love to things that haven't been out there before as far as awards, and it's just for fun. And we like to hear all the impact and the input and feedback that all you guys give us. So I think that's everything. If you like what we do here, the description is down below for the video and audio feeds. Please subscribe, like, rate, review, the whole shebang. If you want this show ad-free, this podcast in total, head over to Patreon, and at the $1 tier you can get that, and $5 tier is what you're going to want to jump on, because at the beginning, I think probably, I'm not sure when, but in the first 2 weeks we're going to announce our entire slate for 2020. It's pretty exciting stuff. We got some really good stuff coming exclusively to Patreon for 2020, so that's good stuff. And if you like what we do, please leave a nice review. It's funny. Thanks to Star Wars Rise of Skywalker, we got like a bunch of 5-star reviews, and then one got. And who knows, because they say, "Oh, this is dope." I always assume it's just me because I got like this love-hate relationship with people, but that's our podcast. It's either 5-star reviews or 1-star review. You love us or you hate us, but at least you feel something. And you know what I felt? I felt really good watching this show. So, like I said, I'm about to review The Witcher. Where should I start with The Witcher? You know what I will do is just give you my brief history, because it is very brief. Never read any of the books. Never played Witcher 1, never played Witcher 2. Didn't intend on playing Witcher 3 just because it kind of, I didn't know what type of game it was, but it kind of looked a little, I don't know. It just didn't grab me. It was very low key. There wasn't much hype going around it, and it almost looked like a Monster Hunter type game, which I do like, but it's not one that I'm run away. Like, it's not one of my favorite genres, or it's not anything that was on my radar. I was like, okay, that could be cool, but nothing really grabbed me. In the previews, they looked fun, but nothing was hitting me. The game came out, mega reviews, and obviously it won Game of the Year, multiple places. And for me, it was actually our own Kirklin and Liam Grogan as well. But I think he got the same time as me, a little bit before. But Kirklin, he knows I'm a big Knights of the Old Republic fan, and I love RPGs, my favorite genre, and legitimately, like, And third-person RPG genre is my favorite. So just a little backstory if you don't know what that is, and you might be in the wrong place. But that's what the video game is. It's a role-playing game, and that's what I loved about the Knights of the Republic. And I've been waiting for that itch to be scratched, and The Witcher 3 definitely did that. Kirklin said, "Oh, hey, you like KOTOR, you should play this," and it was kind of one of those. I was like, "All right, I'll get around to it." Christmas came around, there were some Boxing Day sales, bought the game because I'm like, okay, Kirkland said so much, and I think Liam was playing at that point. He's like, oh, it's really good, you'd enjoy it, and same thing, he knows the background, so I'm like, okay, gonna get it. I love that game. It is, I'm not gonna get in a full game review because check out our best of the decade, but it's one of my favorite games of this decade and one of my favorite games of all time because it scratched that itch. And the thing that was the best thing about it, and the thing that I was hoping the show would do, and this is where I'll roll into the show because what I did is I played Witcher 3, got really involved in it, and then I read a lot of the backstory of at least the 2 video games. I don't know how they differ from the books, but there's a lot of stuff, especially in this season. I was like, okay, I know this is coming, not in a bad way, but just a way of like, okay, I've heard this before, I've heard this storyline approached or brought up. So as far as what the game does well is it creates a entire fantastical universe that you believe in 100%, whether it's the characters, whether it's the world, whether it's the lore. And then the other thing it gives this character Gerald, who is like, he's not the most charismatic guy, but he is the most charismatic guy at the same time. He's like if Clint Eastwood was in a fantasy movie. That's the way I've always looked at him. And going into the show, I thought it had massive potential because they say, oh, it's based on the books, not the games, because I think it's some legal reasons. But really, someone that played the hell of that game and loved that game, there's a lot of tributes, a lot of shout-outs, which I'll get into spoilers for this game, and just even little things. And that's what I was looking for the show to do. What I just said is the characters, the lore, the world, the look, the feel, everything, and this show did that, and it knocked it out of the park, and I'm very happy. This show, I wasn't sure because, and this way, I guess I should apologize too, because I said I would be reviewing this, or somebody would, and also I'm here reviewing it, but it's like a week after the show came out, a little bit later. If you know me, I can binge things in a night or two, but it came out when I was traveling around Vancouver, and came out during Christmas, so I did not get a chance to. And I had heard mixed things, not as far as just from everybody, but I'm somebody that, people can all the time go, oh, Rotten Tomatoes, this and that. I'm somebody that still goes, I look at the score, I read critics that I like, go, okay. So it was getting kind of like middle of the road reviews, but then fans that I had seen on Twitter, people are really, and people that I trust, other people that aren't Rotten Tomatoes certified, were like, I really like the show. So I was like, okay, going in with I went in with low expectations just because of that. The first trailer that came out, I thought, oh, look fine. Second trailer, I thought looked great. So the whole time, I never thought it was going to be the worst show ever or anything like that. But the whole time I was kind of going into it, I was like, all right, I'm kind of in the middle of the road. And luckily, like I said, I love the show. First start, Henry Cavill. Just fantastic. For some reason, Warner Brothers won't give him a goddamn another Superman movie. It makes zero sense, but he kills it here. This is where very different character, but there's I think there was like rumors that were probably not true, but there was rumors a few months ago, and I got people talking about rumors of Henry Cavill possibly being the MC Wolverine, and I was for it, but a lot of people were like, no, look at him as Superman, look at blah, blah, blah. There's shows between Superman, Mission Impossible, and I think this is a big thing because you look at Robert Pattinson and Twilight, people go, oh, can he really be Batman? People just look at Henry Cavill probably just as Superman, but you look at, for me, my limited knowledge of that, the terrible movie Immortals, but we won't talk about that. Oh, man, I'm forgetting that spy movie he did with Armie Hammer. Whatever that was with Guy Ritchie, Mission Impossible, and now this. He is, am I going to go on record and say he's Adam Driver? Is he the best actor in the world right now? No. But he can be a damn good actor and a solid actor. And I think this proved again that he has different shades. And because Geralt to me is, he's a character that if you played him wrong, he could be really boring because he is a character that shows very little emotion. I'm not going to get any my major spoilers, but very little emotion. He's very to the point. He's very soft-spoken. He's very kind of a recluse as far as because he's had a tough life. So he's not that friendly. He's not, he has like great one-liners, but it's a character that there is a little to him, but a lot at the same time. And I thought Henry Cavill just did a fantastic job. It's one of those that, and again, as far as the video game, he made his voice sound exactly like the video game. There's so many times where if I wasn't looking at the screen, I just heard him. It sounded like the voice actor of the game, which was fun because it felt like a transition of that and a touchstone. And Cavill's been on record that he's a fan of the books, but he's big fans of the game. So I'm just happy all around as far as I really like him. He's somebody, of course, you got the voice actor, but he's somebody now I see Henry Cavill as Geralt. That's the same thing I was talking about with, I think we were even on the cast, I'm not sure if it was recorded, we talk about Star Wars all the time, like, can people, like a Daisy Ridley, can she become not just Rey, right? And I think that's what Henry Cavill, and I think people, including myself, maybe worried, can he get out of Superman? Will it always just be Superman? And Mission Impossible, I liked him in, but it was a villain role, but it wasn't a massive, like, a huge change. He was playing like a badass, right? But it was another side to him, but it wasn't anything like, okay, more simpler role, where this is, okay, again, there's things that are simple about this. It's not, there will be blood performance, but to me, I look at him and go, okay, he's versatile. He can do many things. So, one, I'm happy for the show, and I'm happy for myself because I really liked him, and I'm happy for him because for two reasons. One, I just feel like the past few years he's been dicked around with Warner Brothers, which sucks because I've have a lot of problems with those movies. He's never won them as far as the Superman movies goes. And two, I'm just happy for him as like a fan because he, for many times in interviews, would talk about, they got to get that right. I'm a big fan of this. And he just brought it. And anytime he's on screen, he's really fun to watch, whether he's doing the action scenes, which he does a great job. I think there's a lot of them that he does. And the action all around is done really well. The budget of the show, I would say for 90% feels great. There are times when the budget is not there and you really feel it. I'm not going to be specific. This isn't a, big spoiler or anything like that. But there's a moment where Henry Cavill fights a bunch of creatures. There are many of them. And they put them in the dark to try and hide them. But man, they don't look good. And it's one of those things that, okay, maybe you should have somehow shot this differently or not shot so much of it. So I think for the most part, especially the landscapes and the locations they go to look great. Like there's one point where they just go like to an ice place, like a snow place, and then a desert, and then this big forest, and they all look clearly like, okay, they didn't shoot this somewhere in LA or in Vancouver in the woods somewhere. And clearly they probably did somewhere, but they just went, it felt, the show feels like it has a budget and you can see it. Sometimes when it has a budget you don't see it and you go, where is this all going? Is it just towards Henry Cavill? But to me, they made a good use of it. There, like I said, when it doesn't work, it really doesn't work and it stands out. But for the most part, I think they did a good job, and I think in season 2 they can fine tune that. But as I was talking about before, as just the second overall, the characters they knock out of the park. Yennefer I was a little uneasy because, again, people say it might be more based on the book, but she has quite a journey, non-spoiler. She just has a big journey. And that's the thing. It's not just The Witcher. It is kind of an ensemble Game of Thrones show. It has a Game of Thrones feel, but to me, this is Game of Thrones meets Lord of the Rings. It's more fantasy adventure like Lord of the Rings, but then it's mature like Game of Thrones. You got sex, you got drugs, you got swearing left and right, you got gruesome, bloody kills. So that's the best way to describe it. If you're looking for just a Game of Thrones, that's serious, well thought out character stuff, it's definitely in here in the show. They have some great character moments, but it's not all about that. But then also, if you want Lord of the Rings that's just pure, this sounds bad, Lord of the Rings has great character work, but it's a lot more of the adventure and the action, right? And if you want just that, this show has those character moments, Game of Thrones. So for me, it's a perfect blend. It's something great to kind of fill that void after Game of Thrones is left. But sorry, I went off. The characters, as far as Yennefer, Ciri, let's see. There's Triss kind of in there for the video game people and book people, but the main three I would say are Yennefer, Trish, and Geralt. And even then, it's just mostly a two-hand of Geralt and Yennefer. They have a lot of characters, so it feels like a big ensemble, but those are kind of the two main we follow. Ciri is a young child, so I don't want to spoil why. I feel I kind of put her in like a little away from those two, but we get a little less of her than we do of Yennefer and Geralt, which in the story it makes sense. They tell the story in a very, very specific way, and that's why I was kind of relating that to Ciri, so I'll get into that spoilers. So that's why I feel in season 2 she could be bumped up, but she has lots of screen time, lots of stuff. I just would like to learn a little bit more about her in the future. That stuff I don't already know from previous knowledge. But Yennefer and Geralt, they did a great job, and that's the thing that you want. You got to make sure that hits, because Geralt, that works. That's great. Henry Cavill's a big star. He's the main character. Yennefer gets a lot of screen time, and I think I applaud them as far as the casting goes, because one, those two had great chemistry, so that's the big thing you want, because if you know anything about the game's books, they're intertwined quite a bit in the series. So you have that. But then, two, she has a lot of screen time. And luckily, I loved all of it. The first episode and 2, I was like, okay, she is quite a journey. So it's not the Yennefer I know and love, because, in Team Yennefer, Team Trish, I'm Team Yennefer all the way. But once we kind of went through the season, like, okay, I can see what they're going for here, and I can see the changes, and I like like I said, it's a different character than I know because I feel like I've seen the fully formed Yennefer at The Witcher 3, right? Where this is okay, the beginning, is this the character I know and love? Is this more of the books? And I think they did a great job, especially the actress. I forgot to pull up IMDb, so I don't know her name. The world, it feels lived in, it feels cool. It feels that's the biggest thing, and I talked about this too with The Mandalorian, where sometimes it takes me out is with Mandalorian, my biggest fear is you don't want this to feel ever like a fan fiction film or TV show. And sometimes it does feel like that. To me, fantasy movies, it has to feel like a fantasy movie. This is a bad example. But there's that, I don't know, Vanessa Hudgens does like a bunch of Netflix rom-coms or whatnot, and I think she did like, it was a Christmas one recently, and it was like Prince Christmas or whatever. It was I don't know what it was, but like a prince comes into present day and they fall in love. It's just Kay and Leopold. But they do these flashbacks too, or like to introduce this prince who's in medieval times, and they show the medieval times, and it's just like you can tell this is just a backlot somewhere. It's cornered off. It's a set. It doesn't feel like it. And obviously, all movies are a set. And I'm just throwing out that one because it's recent. But you can find that in big blockbusters as well. So that to me was always a worry too. Is you're in fantasy, it has to feel like fantasy. That's something Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, those two did perfectly. But Game of Thrones more comparable because it's a TV show. Same thing was like, can they really pull this off? The battles, the world, the magic, and like I said, yeah, maybe sometimes budget isn't 100% there, but it feels like they work really hard to, if it's not there, they mask it. And that same thing with the feel as far as the world, the locations they go. But just the little things they do, whether it's side characters, whether it's signs, whether it's lore they interject, it feels like a lived-in world. And it never felt like to me, oh, they're shooting on a lot, or oh, this is a green screen. Of course, there's times you can tell that, but it might take you out for a second. Where sometimes in a whole show you'll be watching like, I don't buy this. This just feels like actors wearing wigs and playing with swords. So this show, who would I recommend it to? I think, like I said, if you like that if you like fantasy and medieval, yes. If you like the books and games, yes. If you, I guess I'm trying to think who I wouldn't recommend it to, and it's kind of like if you don't like fantasy, if you have a family, it's not a family show. If you're wondering, it's not like Lord of the Rings in that aspect. Like I said, there's lots of sex. There's a minor spoiler. There's a massive orgy scene at one point in this show, which is very graphic. So if you got kids, not the show you want to watch. I think I would say give it a shot. I would say they tell the story very interestingly, so I feel you get a good mix of main story and fun side quests. And that's the other thing I gotta say, that this, once again, yeah, it's based on the books, not the games. The creators have said that multiple times. It's 100% taking tribute from the games because there's so many things in here that feel like they're side quest missions. It's ridiculous, but in a good way. And this to me shows that video games, yeah, we got Mortal Kombat coming out in 2 years again. We got Sonic, but I think for some of these, like people have talked about Halo, which is happening, or like GTA, or anything to those magnitude where it's long for, or even maybe like a Skyrim. Anything that's a long form storytelling video game, especially like a massive RPG, this shows to me you gotta do a TV series. And obviously you can make it work. But if you want to do just the main story and the main mission, fine, that could be a movie. But if you want to do all these little intricacies, all these other characters, this world building, it works great in a TV show for something as large as The Witcher. I can never imagine The Witcher movie. It's the same thing with Game of Thrones. You couldn't imagine that into like, they pitched it, I think, at one point, like 3 movies or 2 movies. Same way someone wanted to do Lord of the Rings in 2 movies, right? It's like you can't do that. And that's where, for me, Lord of the Rings is such a big gamble. I can't believe that worked, but that was the 3 books. This is such a massive world, massive story that they can take their time. That's what I really like about it. I think video games, this is the route they need to go. I think there are a select few, and you got to pick and choose what can be movies. Like something like Mario, when they do the animated movie, perfect. That should be a movie. I don't need the Mario TV series, but something like this works. And I think we've talked about this a few times on the cast, that TV is really the future, especially streaming is the future of video game stuff. It's not movies. Not everything works for movies. It's going to be TV. And I lost my point. I was going somewhere. Where was I going? I was talking about TV. I was talking about The Witcher. I was talking about who I'd recommend it to. I'm going to take a drink of water, see if I remember. I don't got it. It's gone. Oh, I kind of remember. I think I do. So this is the thing as far as my last point, as far as really enjoying it and recommend it and liking it. If you've listened to anything for The Mandalorian, then it's a little repetitive. But if not, for me, The Mandalorian, I've had problems that sometimes some episodes are just pure story and some are filler. And I wish there was a better mix or better pacing of that. That's what I liked about this show, that you always feel like, and it is different because we're watching, or I at least watch a binge style, but every episode feels like you are on a fun adventure, but it feels like it progresses the main story. You never felt like, what was this episode? The season was, I mean, it's because the budget was 8 episodes. Netflix usually does like the 13. They've been trying the 10, but I think the 8 was a good call, whether it was just for budget or whatnot, whatever the reason was, it was a good call. But always felt like the story was moving forward, but you could also take times to go, oh, Witcher has to go slay this monster, and that's the only story that week. Perfect. It's just a Bills legend, get him some money, good to go. So I applaud them for that. They did a really good job. So yeah, I'm about to jump into spoilers. If you want to listen along and you don't care about spoilers, then feel free. If you have listened to the show, keep coming. If you haven't seen the show, please come back. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments or Twitter or Facebook, anywhere like that, and then listen to it. And or if you're still watching, just, this is the time. So 3, 2, 1. Everyone gone? Everyone gone who's not there for spoilers? Where first I want to start about the storytelling, what I was talking about as far as with Siri, the storytelling aspect, how we get this, the non-linear fashion of the episodes was very interesting, because I can't remember when, and I'm not going to break it down because I feel like this is something, if you haven't watched the show and you're listening around for spoilers, I can't, because it's way too long to break down. This is just for the people that have watched the show. I think it's episode 4 when they do, because you have 3 storylines going on, right? You got Yennefer, who's becoming a mage. You have Geralt, who at this point is just kind of, he's on adventures, and you have Ciri, who is running for life, trying to find Geralt. At first, they make it seem all the stuff is happening at the same time, and it slowly peels back that no, that's not the case here. And this is not the first one. Oh, I can't remember. Well, the first one was a mistake. How I figured out that Yennefer stuff was happening before Witcher's, because I thought I was going by the canon, because in some of the game canon that I read, it was like Geralt fell in love with Yennefer, he somehow lost his memory, and then he fell in love with Triss, and then later on Yennefer comes back and they found they had this great love. So when he was meeting Triss at one point in the season, while the Yennefer stuff was going on, I went, oh, Yennefer stuff must be in the past, because I bet this is after him. Like, this is him post losing his memory, and that's going to come in. I don't know if that's the way in the book, so you can let me know. I just know the video game lore. So I was right about that, because then they say that Yennefer's been a mage for 30 years or something like that, like decades and decades. She's lived lifetimes. So I was right about it, but I was wrong about how I got there. But then the one where they confirm is, you have Ciri's grandparents, who are the king and the queen. They get killed in the battle. But then later on, episode 4, you have Geralt, who goes to a dinner, and they're there, and their major kind of Witcher friend there is also their Ciri's protectors there. But the thing is, at first I wasn't putting it together when I first saw some people, because when she comes in, she's covered in blood, everything like that. Okay, like we didn't get that much screen time with her, and it just wasn't clicking in, right? And then as I see her daughter, I'm saying to myself, why did they cast an actress that looks so similar to Ciri? This is a very strange choice. And then at that moment, I think they pan over to the queen at that point, who is the grandma. I was like, oh, this is all going on at different points. And it was really, the best way I could describe it is, it feels like Memento or Dunkirk, where you're trying to place where things are. And the thing is, I don't know if they're going to do that with season 2. I bet they might, but I could see some people saying it was confusing, and I even heard someone say confusing before. I think it was my sister. I was like, oh, and she didn't spoil anything for me. I was like, oh, I don't know, like, why it could be confusing. This is interesting. And she said she thought the ending was lame. I don't know why. I thought the ending was great. And I think I saw on Twitter too, somebody, like a friend of mine was like, oh yeah, the ending was a big meh. It's like, I don't know, like, maybe, yeah, it sucks we got to wait a year, but to me it ended perfectly from it's closed off lots of the story points of season 1, but then it set up season 2, kind of like what we were talking about Mandalorian. That's my favorite episode, because it was this perfect balance. So I think it could have been messy, and I do understand why some people might be confused. My life is busy, so I don't know when I'm going to get a chance to rewatch it, but I would like to, because we had a similar, I'm not going to say that, because that's a spoiler for our current show right now. That is, maybe I reviewed, go back and check it, but how do I want to backtrack out of this one? because I was primed to make an example and totally spoil a show, and I don't want to do that because somebody was like, oh, I swear someone gave me a 1-star review for our Star Wars one because they're like, oh, and he spoils all these movies in his opening or something like that. And I don't know which, because sometimes people review. One time they reviewed like the Infinity War cast like 2 years later. It's like, okay, I'm happy you listened to it, but it's strange it's coming up now. And he's like, oh, you spoil these movies. I spoiled 0 movies in my Star Wars Rise of Skywalker except for a few points of the ending of Justice League. And it's like, that's an almost 3-year-old movie. Let's get over it, but that's why I'm trying to be more careful now. I'm trying to, be nicer and not just throw a spoiler, assuming someone might have it, no matter how old or new the show might be. So I don't know when I'm going to go back and rewatch it, but I really liked it because once that's set in, I was already engaged in the show, but it really makes you start watching every little thing. And I was watching this with Emily, my, little plug for these people or for the fans, my fiance now, kind of tying that down finally after 7 years and 2 kids, right? Good call. It was fun to discuss it. I think it's a good show to watch with people. When do you think this is happening? When this is happening? Especially because the finale, you have Ciri who is running for her life. You have Geralt who is showing up before the battle. And then you have Yennefer going to the mages. And it's just, you're trying to figure out, okay, with Geralt, like he's there now. So is the Yennefer stuff happening before? Is it happening concurrently? Is this later on? And I liked it because I was already engaged in the story. But once that element came in, it added another layer on top of it. So I do understand if you wouldn't like it because it is a lot to handle. It's a lot to look for. I didn't think they did a terrible job. I think the only thing that they did, which this was a complaint when I was younger, and I think it was done better when I was older and I appreciate more, so I can get to it now. But even on when I watched Godfather the first time, the time jumps in Godfather 1 and 2 were very, not distracting, but hard for me to calculate of how far have we gone? Why have we done this? And I was younger when I watched those, and then when I watched them over and over, you talk to other people, you read reviews, you go, okay, this is the time I know this succinctly. On a first watch, there's one point where Yennefer said something when she was protecting that child and the queen who is, they sent assassins to her because she can't produce boys or something like that. And she said something about 3 decades, being there for 3 decades, and it was in a way where she was saying it like, has she already been there for 3 decades? And did we get a 30-year time jump with Yennefer? Or to me, it kind of sounded like she was saying, oh, I'm going to be doing this for 30 decades. Later on in the show, she said something about like she's lived lifetime. So I was like, okay, clearly there was a jump. But they do that a few times, especially there's one point where Witcher and Yennefer have a falling out. And then they jump to Geralt coming to the tower to protect Ciri. We don't know how much time is in between. So I didn't have a problem with when is this happening as far as the 3 storylines. I had just a problem of sometimes how long had been actual time passed for in those certain 3 storylines. So it's one that I think would help once I read other reviews or once I watched it again, which I think I will at some point in my life. Maybe I would watch that just because the time differences. I would like to watch it before the first or the second season comes out. It's only 8 episodes, which is great, and I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think if there's anything negatively that I would say about this show, because I'm just trying to think on as far as spoilers, like big plot points before I get into the negatives. I loved everything they did. I thought everything was just perfectly paced of Geralt going on adventures. He's fighting, like the first 3 episodes of him just fighting monsters or cursed princesses and whatnot. But like I said, there's stuff going on with Ciri. There's stuff going on with Yennefer. That's all going towards the main story. And it never felt like, sometimes that was my problem with Mandalorian, is this going to pay off? Some stuff did. Some stuff didn't. Everything in this show paid off. I didn't feel anything was wasted. I didn't feel much scenes were wasted. I think the finale was, I liked the battle for the ending episode of the season. It was really done well. There was some really cool magic stuff. Again, I saw about the world building, very cool powers, very cool type of weapons and armory and whatnot. Even though some armory looks a little cheap on like the Niflgaard people, like it looked a little plasticky. But these bombs that they have, it's a little glass tube, like kind of like a message in a bottle. You put the lid on it, and there's like these blue rocks. You throw them in the air, they explode when they hit you. Looks like it kind of melts some things. The use of Yennefer's like fire blast and everything like that. The teleportation, everything was done very well, very smoothly. The way people would unlock their powers, progress, but it all paid off. It all worked, and that's why I saw some of the finale. There was just some stuff where it felt there's like a little too many slow motion stuff and just a lot of, I get it, there is lots of death, we established it, but it felt, that was the most episode where it felt like they were trying to hit the hour, because all these episodes are almost a full hour, which was crazy to see, because usually it's like a 48, 47, something like that. So that felt, maybe they weren't on purpose trying to do that, but at the time it's like, okay, here we go. There's a, they're like, we're back in the battle. And here we go. We pan around. Everyone's still dead. People, and there's lots of characters in smoke, like looking like, oh, like they're just looking. That girl who trained Yennefer, was it Tirsa or Tissa? She died like 2 times, and then every time they'd cut back, she'd be like standing up, all hurt, and like looking around. It's like, you're not dead yet. Like that one mage just threw something that was just like black smoke at her that looked like it was a insta kill. But no, there's so many times she's holding her gut, and then she gets up. Something happens to her. Oh, she gets back up. She's holding her gut. So the finale actually was my least favorite episode. I liked it. That's like, if you like every single type of donut and you go, but the jam one's my least favorite. That's what this was like. I really enjoyed the entire season, but the finale, I thought the pacing was a little off, a little too slow, a little all over the place. I think they introduced some stuff too quickly. Like, you get some Vesemir shout outs, who is the guy who trained Witcher, if you don't know, and I'm not getting in big spoilers because I don't know how much you want to know if you don't read the books or read the games, and you go, I just want to know about the show. But he's just a guy that they talk about, that he was the guy that trained Witcher. They talked about how his mom left whatever the Witcher's real name, Geralt, on his doorstep, and there was a little backstory there. But it was like, you had him finding Ciri, you had the stuff dealing with his potential mom and seeing her, and then you had also this type of Vesemir of like, I gotta get back home and I gotta talk to him and stuff like that. He can heal me. So there's a lot of stuff crammed in there. It just felt that, I don't know. I think there's 3 reasons. One, they felt it was a good idea, and good on them. I didn't really jive with it. I liked all that stuff, but I think you could have sprinkled it a little bit more throughout the season, not in the finale. 2, maybe they just felt like Geralt was not enough in that episode, because at the beginning of the episode he gets bitten and he gets taken out of the battle, and the whole episode he's on a cart getting taken to this guy's house to heal him up. So maybe they just felt, we got to sprinkle some stuff in, give some fan service. That's fine. And 3, that's the main thing, is like, maybe they just felt they want to throw in these plot lines for season 2. I don't think those ones they needed to, because Vesemir was mentioned a few times, but he didn't end up going there. I thought, okay, it sounded like he had to go back home. I thought he was going to take a detour and go to Vesemir, and then he'd talk to him, be like, we got to get the girl Ciri, you got to help. But that didn't happen. Maybe he will go there with Ciri, so I'll bite my tongue on that. But it was still the pacing of it. The mom stuff, I don't know if it's needed. That stuff is storyline that I'm unfamiliar with as far as the 3rd game. I imagine if there was a mom stuff in the 1 and 2, that's when you would kind of touch upon that in the character's origins. Maybe it's just a big thing in the books, but it just didn't feel like it was needed. And because we got some flashbacks, maybe it was all just in the end of the episode, but it was definitely the end of the season, and then the penultimate episode. And that's where it just kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. But I don't know. It's something that maybe I'll have to sit with. But those were a few things that I felt the finale was the messiest, and the pacing was off and not the most well thought out. But I still enjoyed it. I thought the back half of it was better. You're seeing Yennefer just kind of tap into her power. You get to see Geralt and Ciri finally not reunite, but meet for the first time. And that's where I wasn't sure how I felt about the hug as well, because Geralt is a really kind of puts a lot of boundaries between people, and Ciri's never met this guy. But then I also go, hey, these people have been looking for each other. It said that destiny combines them. And they also have been looking for each other, as far as they thought they both might be dead tonight, right? What are the odds they found each other? So I do get it. I don't know if they needed that, but it's fine. It's establishing that bond. I have to see in season 2, because as far as my knowledge of Geralt with Ciri, they're very father and daughter like, but he is very tough on her. It's very Wolverine roguish, so we'll have to see. It's just a hug right away. I didn't expect it, but maybe on a second watch you'll sit bear with me. The hug is nothing that would be a con for that finale. I'm just bringing it up as a talking point. As anything else, I could quickly just shout things I really liked. I love that episode with the princess being cursed and she was the monster. That felt exactly like the video game. That felt like a quest you would go on, and I liked that. I love the way it was shot. It felt very horrorish. I felt that, I don't know if they used practical. If they didn't, that was the best use of using CG but hiding it. And even if it was practical, the way they would shoot this monster was terrific, and you didn't feel, it was scary. It It was great. That's one of my favorite episodes. The monsters and creatures in general are really good. You know, oh, your mom looked like you look like your mom fucked a goat, and then when he pulled that guy's hair out, your mom must have fucked a snowman. That was good. The banter between Geralt and other people, and just every kind of weird conversation going on at times felt very much like Game of Thrones when Peter Dinklage's character Tyrion would have these weird dialogues and weird monologues about things. They had a good cadence in this show. What about the guy that was like the singer, Jasker or whatever, who Geralt was like using as a companion? I worried he was going to get annoying, and he didn't. He really didn't. I was surprised. Not that I needed him. When he disappeared, I was like, oh, he's missing. But I worried, oh, we're adding a sidekick on the show and this character. I don't know if we needed it. But it worked. Surprisingly, it really worked for me. What else? If there's any big pros or cons. Yeah, no, action was good. Pacing was good. Storyline was good. Pays-offs were good. Lots of sex. Lots of nakedness. Lots of, Henry Cavill's bathing, but I don't even think we saw his butt. We definitely didn't see his dick, but we didn't see his butt. Maybe share the love a little bit because Yennefer is quite naked in all this, so it'd be nice to get that out there. That's one of my favorite things about Altered Carbon. Everybody's naked in that show. It doesn't matter if you're man or female, you're seeing everything, and I like that. All around. I don't think there's anything else. So I think I will give the whole season. I'm somewhere in like a 9.5 ish. It's not a 10 because I had some problems with, like I said, the pacing of the finale, and there's certain maybe actors at time that weren't the highest quality. I think the villains were quite lame in this. They were really tacked on, and not tacked on in the sense of they were there throughout the whole season, but it's fine, but it's just we got to get this power and we got to destroy everything in front of us. And that's cool. But the thing, Lord of the Rings has that, but the bad guys are cool. You got the orcs, you got Sauron, you got Saruman, you got Smeagol, you got all these things going on where the guy who was playing like the main leader, I think he kind of was like a dirty blonde, pushback hair, younger, not that cool. The coolest bad guy they killed off was the guy who could like transform into other people. When he turned into like a scaly, like Nosferatu looking motherfucker, I was like, okay, I like this guy. They kill him off. But the guy, I'm not going to take too many shots. He just didn't have the presence I was looking for. We talk about this many times with a villain, you either need two things. You need a villain like a Thanos, like a Kylo Ren, where they are doing bad things, but you, from their point of view, understand what they're doing, and they are the hero of their story. Or you need something like a Joker or Darth Vader, where Darth Vader is just pure cool badass, and that's why you're scared of him. That's why you love him. You love the look, you love the feel, you love the aura. Or you have something like Joker, where it's like, oh, he has no motives, but this guy is, for the most time, crazy, but he's also, for the most time again, propelled by a great actor, right? You have Heath Ledger going 100 miles per hour. You got Joaquin Phoenix. So it's like, okay, this character, they're raising up the material. This is, and I don't know if it's just they felt the guy was right for the role, if they weren't planning too much as a villain, if all the acting budget was taken out on Henry Cavill. This guy wasn't awful. He's not one of the worst things ever, but he didn't have the presence I wanted. Anytime he was on screen and he's doing evil monologues or talking, didn't really jive with me. Even the mages, the evil mages, other than like Lars Mikkelsen, which I like, he's barely in the show, they didn't really have a presence. It just didn't feel, it felt dangerous just because the show told you they were dangerous and they had lots of weapons and just numbers. And okay, and that's fine, but that's why I wish and they have a cool look, but the look also looks cheap. This is not the Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt is in the third game, and for non-spoilers, they're just, there are some really bad people that kind of use magic, and they have these cool, really black armor, and not the way that, like, the Nithilgard had here. They just have, I don't know, like, these weird medieval helmets. They look very anime-ish. If you think about, like, an anime medieval knight, that's what they look. They're hulking, they're scary, they're mad, they look intimidating, and they just have a cool, unique look that you would see and go, that's the Wild Hunt. This just looks like a lot of generic army stuff going on, So that's why I'll give it a 9. Some pacing of the last episode, some maybe storylines at the end that they introduced that I didn't feel were needed. Villain presence not really there, but everything else I love. Like I said, the time jumps and whatnot, or the The storytelling was not confusing to me. I loved all the main characters. I liked where all their journeys went. They were acted for the most part very well, especially Henry Cavill and Yennefer. I think they killed it. They had great chemistry. You wanted them to bang, and that's what you want. You want that Batman, Catwoman. You want that Raylo. You want that tension in the room with Yennefer and Geralt, and you got that. So I'm looking forward to many more adventures with those people. Yeah, overall, just a great time. This is a show now, and season 2 is coming. I'm going to be very anticipated. Where something like The Mandalorian, I'm anticipated because it's Star Wars, but the season overall for me, you can check out the finale. I gave like a 7.5. It's like, I liked it, and the season 2 comes, I'll be like, oh, I'm excited. But I hope it's better than last. I can get really on board. This is now when Witcher 2 comes, it's on my radar. It doesn't matter who they cast. It doesn't matter what type of trailers are, if they crap, unless they're just really bad. Unless they're just like, we're doing the whole season with puppets, which could be fun. But you know what I mean. My hype now is next year, Witcher Season 2. I'm excited. Now, that's the one where I'm going to make sure I got to binge right away. I got to be on it because really enjoyed it. I think they knocked it out of the park. And I think this is the best, again, it's not an adaptation, but I'm going to say it is. This is the best video game adaptation out there between movie or TV. And this is, to me, the gold standard of what you want to do with a video game adaptation with TV. And that's why I say go away from films. Even something like Mortal Kombat, to me, I think I could see that as just a movie. That works. But these big, grandiose, huge scale games that are multiple storylines, multiple characters, multiple weapons, multiple vehicles, multiple magic, multiple everything. Like a game that's not succinct, a game that's not like an Uncharted, a game where it's like, okay, here's your mission, but then you also have 10 other missions around you. Go ahead, go have fun. That's what this show felt like, and they killed it. So a 9 out of 10, loved it. I can't wait for more. I hope you enjoyed this review. Let me know what you thought about it down below, or whether you're watching on YouTube, or hit me up on Twitter, or Geekverse on Twitter, or on Facebook. We're all around. So thank you very much for tuning into this. When you hear from me next time, it'll not be boring.